The massive holographic display flickered to life in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, casting an eerie blue glow across the assembled representatives of 47 civilizations. Each species had earned their place through conquest, diplomacy, or sheer survival in the vast cosmic arena that was the Milky Way galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire with their crystalline bodies that chimed like wind bells when they moved. The Corathan hive mind, whose insectoid forms clicked and chittered in perfect unison. The ancient Veiltar, energy beings who had transcended physical form millennia ago and now existed as shimmering auroras of consciousness. At the head of the chamber sat High Arbiter Xel'Naga, a being whose species had ruled the galactic core for over 10,000 years. His elongated skull bore the traditional marks of authority, and his 6 eyes surveyed the assembly with practiced indifference. Today's session would be routine, or so he believed. Another primitive species had been discovered on the outer rim, and like all newcomers to the galactic community, they would need to understand their place in the established order. Esteemed members of the Council, Xel'Naga's voice resonated through the chamber's translation matrices, converting his words into the native languages of every species present. We convene today to address the matter of the species calling themselves humans from the 3rd planet of a yellow star they have named Sol. A ripple of mild interest passed through the assembly. New species were discovered regularly as the galaxy's borders expanded, but most were either too primitive to matter or too advanced to bother with formal introductions. The humans fell into an interesting middle category that had sparked some debate among the Council's xenobiologists. The Corathan representative, a creature resembling a mantis the size of a small tree, raised one of its razor-sharp forelimbs. High Arbiter, our scouts report these humans have achieved basic spaceflight and have established colonies on several worlds within their system. They possess nuclear weapons and have demonstrated remarkable adaptability. Perhaps they warrant more consideration than the usual tribute demand? Xel'Naga's expression remained unchanged. In his 10 millennia of service, he had heard similar arguments countless times. Every species believed themselves special until they encountered the true powers of the galaxy. Adaptation is common among younger species, Representative Xexahai. It is how they survive long enough to attract our attention. However, adaptation without wisdom leads to chaos. The tribute system exists to teach proper respect for the established order. The holographic display shifted to show detailed images of human worlds. Earth, with its blue oceans and swirling white clouds, appeared almost jewel-like against the black of space. Mars, red and barren, but showing clear signs of terraforming efforts in its polar regions. The asteroid mining stations of the belt, where humans had learned to harvest resources from the void itself. Several representatives leaned forward with interest. The humans had indeed accomplished more than most species at their level of development. They are remarkably industrious, noted the ethereal conclave's representative, her translucent form shimmering as she spoke. Our economic projectors indicate their manufacturing capacity exceeds galactic norms for their technological level by a factor of 3. They might prove valuable contributors to the galactic economy, which makes them ideal candidates for the tribute system, Xel'Naga replied smoothly. Their productivity will benefit the entire galaxy once properly directed. I propose the standard package: 20% of their gross planetary production, 40% of their military assets to be integrated into the Galactic Defense Force, and the establishment of council governance over their major population centers. The proposal was not unusual. Every species that joined the galactic community faced similar demands. It was, the council argued, a small price to pay for the benefits of membership: access to galactic trade networks, protection from external threats, and the accumulated knowledge of dozens of advanced civilizations. Most species accepted these terms after brief negotiations. The few that refused faced economic sanctions, technological suppression, or in extreme cases, military intervention. Representative HFY clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. High Arbiter, there is one unusual aspect to the human situation. Our diplomatic teams have attempted to establish formal contact, but the humans have declined to acknowledge the Council's authority. A moment of surprised silence filled the chamber. This was unprecedented. Every species, upon learning of the Council's existence, immediately sought audience. The benefits of galactic membership were obvious, and the consequences of isolation were well understood throughout the galaxy. They declined. The question came from the Nexus Collective, a cybernetic civilization that spoke in perfect mathematical harmonics. This is highly irregular. What reason did they provide for this refusal? No reason was provided, HFY admitted. Our envoys transmitted the standard greeting protocols, outlined the benefits of council membership, and requested an immediate response from their governing bodies. The humans acknowledged receipt of the message, then simply continued with their activities as if we had not spoken at all. Xel'Naga's 6 eyes narrowed slightly. In his experience, such behavior indicated either profound ignorance or dangerous arrogance. Neither could be tolerated in the galactic community. Perhaps they require a more direct demonstration of our capabilities. Authorize a show of force, nothing destructive, but sufficient to capture their full attention. A small fleet positioned at the edge of their system should suffice. The order was transmitted immediately. Within hours, a council task force consisting of 3 heavy cruisers and their escort flotillas had entered the Sol system's outer reaches. Each ship was a marvel of galactic engineering, kilometers long and bristling with weapons that could crack planets if necessary. Their arrival should have triggered immediate panic and surrender from any rational species. Instead, something unexpected happened. The human response came not from their governments or their military commanders, but from a single transmission broadcast simultaneously from every human world and station throughout their system. The message was brief, consisting of only text with no accompanying imagery or ceremonial protocols. When the translation matrices processed it, the words appeared on every screen in the council chamber in stark, simple letters. Ambassador Thelkanus of the Sovereign Reach, a species known for their diplomatic expertise, was the first to speak. Is this some form of primitive communication error? Surely they meant to send a more comprehensive response? Xel'Naga studied the message with growing incredulity. In 10,000 years of galactic diplomacy, he had received surrender documents spanning hundreds of pages, treaty proposals involving complex multidimensional trade agreements, and desperate pleas for mercy that filled entire data cores. Never had he received a response so brief, so dismissive, so utterly lacking in proper protocol. The word glowed on the screens throughout the chamber, simple and unadorned. No. Run the translation algorithm again, Xel'Naga commanded. There must be some error in the linguistic processing. The translation was verified, checked, and cross-referenced with every known human language. The meaning remained unchanged. The humans had received the Council's demand for tribute, reviewed the terms of galactic membership, considered the overwhelming military superiority of the Council forces, and responded with a single word of refusal. Representative HFY's mandibles clicked rapidly in what might have been confusion or amusement. High Arbiter, our xenopsychology teams have studied human behavioral patterns extensively. This response is consistent with their documented history. When faced with superior force, humans have demonstrated a tendency toward what they term stubborn defiance, even when logic dictates surrender. Defiance born of ignorance, Xel'Naga declared firmly. They simply do not understand the realities of galactic politics. Once they witness the true scope of our capabilities, they will reconsider their position. Order the fleet to advance to the inner system. Begin targeting their military installations. Do not fire, but ensure they understand we possess the capability to do so." The task force moved deeper into the Sol system, their sensors cataloging human defenses and military assets. What they found was both impressive and puzzling. The humans possessed a surprisingly robust space-based military for their technological level, with weapons platforms scattered throughout their system and a fleet of warships that, while primitive by galactic standards, showed innovative design approaches that several Council species had not considered. More intriguingly, the humans made no attempt to hide their capabilities or present a facade of weakness. Every military installation, every weapons platform, every ship in their fleet operated with what appeared to be complete transparency. They seemed utterly unconcerned about revealing their defensive capabilities to a superior force. "They are either supremely confident in their abilities or completely ignorant of ours," observed the ethereal conclave representative. "Neither interpretation speaks well of their judgment." The second human transmission arrived 3 hours after the Council fleet reached Earth's orbit. Once again, it was broadcast simultaneously from every human facility, and once again, it consisted of a single word. This time, however, it was accompanied by a data packet that caused considerable alarm among the Council's intelligence analysts. The word was the same: no. The accompanying data was a complete technical specification for the Council's flagship, including detailed schematics of its weapon systems, defensive capabilities, crew complement, and tactical doctrine. The information was accurate down to the molecular level of the hull plating and included several classified modifications that had been implemented only weeks earlier. The chamber erupted in concerned chatter as representatives realized the implications. Somehow the humans had penetrated the Council's most secure databases and extracted information that should have been impossible to obtain. "This could be a coincidence," suggested the Nexus Collective representative, though their harmonic tones indicated significant uncertainty. "Perhaps they possess more advanced sensor technology than our initial assessments indicated." Zelnaga silenced the debate with a gesture. "Irrelevant. Whether through espionage or advanced sensors, they have made their position clear. They refuse to acknowledge our authority and have demonstrated hostile intelligence-gathering capabilities. This situation has moved beyond diplomacy. Prepare for military action." But even as the order was given, a troubling thought nagged at the High Arbiter's mind. In 10,000 years of galactic expansion, only a handful of species had ever said no to the Council's initial demands. Most had eventually been brought to heel through superior firepower and economic pressure. A few had been destroyed outright when they proved too dangerous to integrate. None had ever seemed quite so calm about it. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance, watching the tactical display with calm interest as 3 massive alien warships took position above Earth. Each vessel dwarfed her flagship by a factor of 10. Their sleek hulls bristling with weapons that could probably turn her ship into vapor with a single volley. Around her, the bridge crew maintained their stations with professional discipline, though she could sense the tension in their movements. "Status report, Commander Park," she said, her voice carrying easily across the bridge's subdued atmosphere. "All defense platforms are online and ready, Admiral. The Luna shipyards have completed their emergency protocols and secured all civilian personnel. Mars Fleet Command reports ready status across all battle groups." Commander Park's fingers danced across his console as he updated the tactical readouts. "Shall I transmit our response to the alien ultimatum?" Admiral Chen smiled, an expression that would have chilled the blood of anyone who knew her reputation from the Titan Colony War. "Already taken care of, Commander. I believe our response was quite clear." Across the solar system, similar scenes were playing out on every human military vessel and installation. The aliens had demanded tribute, acknowledgement of their authority, and submission to their galactic order. Humanity's response had been characteristically direct. The alien ships maintained their positions for several hours, apparently waiting for a more elaborate reply. When none came, they began broadcasting what the translation computers identified as warnings about the consequences of continued defiance. These messages were acknowledged, filed, and promptly ignored. Admiral Chen had spent her career studying military history, from the ancient battles of Earth to the more recent conflicts of human expansion. She understood the psychology of power, the way superior forces expected inferior ones to behave. The aliens were following a script that had probably worked for thousands of years across dozens of worlds. They expected fear, desperation, and eventual submission. They were about to learn that humans had never been particularly good at following other people's scripts. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Torres from the communications station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Geneva Command. President Martinez is convening an emergency session of the Colonial Council. Tell the President I'll attend virtually in 30 minutes. And, Lieutenant, make sure they know the military situation is well in hand." The Colonial Council represented every human world and major installation throughout the Sol system. In the 6 hours since the alien ultimatum had been received, they had conducted the fastest legislative session in human history. The debate had been brief, the vote unanimous, and the outcome exactly what Admiral Chen had expected. The human race would not be paying tribute to aliens who had contributed nothing to their advancement. They would not surrender their sovereignty to creatures they had never met, and they certainly would not accept the premise that superior firepower automatically granted political authority. "Commander Park," Admiral Chen said, settling back into her command chair, "please transmit the detailed tactical assessments to all fleet commanders. I believe our guests are about to escalate their demonstration, and I want our people prepared." The assessments in question were the result of 6 months of intensive intelligence gathering that had begun the moment human deep space sensors had detected the first alien scout ships. While the Galactic Council believed they were dealing with a primitive species that had barely achieved spaceflight, the reality was considerably different. Humanity had not announced their presence to the galaxy for the simple reason that they had been watching it for decades. The first unmanned probes had reached nearby star systems 50 years earlier than any alien intelligence assessment suggested. Human listening posts had been monitoring galactic communications for over a century, gradually decoding the languages and protocols of dozens of civilizations. The Galactic Council's own databases had been penetrated and mapped by human cyber warfare specialists who had learned their trade-fighting corporate AIs and rogue military systems in the Belt Wars. To the humans, alien computer systems were remarkably primitive, heavily dependent on central processing nodes, and lacking the distributed adaptive security protocols that human networks had developed out of necessity. When the alien task force commander finally lost patience with humanity's silence, the escalation came exactly as predicted. The massive ships powered up their main weapons arrays, targeting what their sensors identified as key military installations across the Sol system. The demonstration was intended to show overwhelming superior firepower and encourage immediate surrender. Instead, it revealed the fundamental gap between alien assumptions and human reality. The moment the alien weapons came online, every human ship, station, and planetary installation vanished from sensors. What the aliens had identified as military targets were revealed to be sophisticated holographic projections backed by sensor ghosts and electronic warfare packages. The real human fleet had been positioned using stealth technology that made their ships effectively invisible to alien detection systems. Admiral Chen watched her tactical display with satisfaction as the alien commander's confusion became apparent in their increasingly frantic sensor sweeps. The aliens had based their intelligence on long-range observations and basic physical laws. They knew humans possessed nuclear weapons, chemical rockets, and primitive manufacturing capabilities. They had no idea that human technology had developed along radically different lines than most galactic civilizations. Where other species had focused on raw power and large-scale engineering, humans had pursued efficiency, stealth, and adaptability. Their ships were smaller but faster, their weapons less powerful but more accurate, their defenses based on misdirection rather than heavy armor. Most importantly, their entire military doctrine was built around the assumption that they would always be outnumbered and outgunned. "Admiral," Commander Park reported, "the alien flagship is attempting to lock targeting solutions on our projected positions. Their computer systems appear to be cycling through increasingly aggressive scan protocols." "Let them scan," Admiral Chen replied calmly. "They'll find exactly what we want them to find." What they found was a carefully crafted intelligence picture designed to reinforce their existing assumptions while hiding humanity's true capabilities. The aliens saw orbital defense platforms that were actually automated decoy systems. They detected military installations that were sophisticated electronic warfare nodes. They identified a human fleet that existed mainly as sensor ghosts and holographic projections. Meanwhile, the real human defense network remained completely hidden. Cloaked ships drifted through the asteroid belt like shadows, their weapons trained on the alien vessels. Concealed installations throughout the system prepared for a conflict that the aliens still believed they could avoid through intimidation. The third human response arrived precisely on schedule, transmitted from what appeared to be the heavily defended human command center on Luna. Once again, it was a single word, but this time it was accompanied by something that sent shockwaves through the alien task force. The word was still no. The accompanying data package was a complete real-time tactical analysis of the alien ships, including the names and biographical information of every crew member, detailed structural assessments that highlighted critical weaknesses, and a precise countdown timer showing how long it would take human forces to destroy all three vessels if hostilities commenced. The countdown was set to 47 minutes. Admiral Chen could imagine the panic spreading through the alien command structure as they realized the implications. Not only were the humans refusing to submit, they were demonstrating intelligence capabilities that should have been impossible for their technological level. Every classified detail about the alien force had been compromised, and somehow the humans had achieved this penetration without triggering a single security alert. "Commander," she said, turning to her intelligence officer, "what's the status of our diplomatic package?" "Ready for transmission, Admiral. All psychological profiles have been verified and the cultural analysis teams have confirmed the approach. The aliens should find the message quite educational." The package in question was the product of decades of careful study of galactic civilizations. Human xenopsychologists had identified patterns in alien thinking that suggested most advanced species had forgotten what it was like to face genuine uncertainty. Their civilizations had achieved stability through overwhelming technological superiority, and they had grown comfortable with the assumption that superior force automatically meant superior position. Humanity was about to provide them with a comprehensive education in asymmetric warfare, strategic thinking, and the simple reality that technological advancement did not necessarily correlate with military effectiveness or political wisdom. "Transmit the package," Admiral Chen ordered. "I think our guests have had enough time to appreciate their situation." The transmission that reached the alien flagship was unlike anything in the Galactic Council's diplomatic archives. Instead of a plea for mercy or an offer of conditional surrender, it was a detailed analysis of why the alien force was already defeated. Regardless of their technological superiority, the humans had provided technical specifications for weapon systems that could punch through alien shields, tactical assessments that revealed the weaknesses in alien ship designs, and strategic projections that showed exactly how a smaller, more agile human fleet could systematically dismantle a larger alien force. But the most disturbing element was the psychological profile that accompanied the data. The humans had not simply analyzed alien technology and tactics. They had studied alien thinking patterns, identified cognitive biases, and prepared countermeasures for every likely alien response to the current situation. The countdown timer in the message had reached 31 minutes and was still counting down. High Arbiter Xel'Naga stared at the tactical display in growing disbelief as his task force commander's reports became increasingly alarming. The human countdown timer had reached 15 minutes, and every attempt to locate the actual human fleet had failed. Worse, the humans had begun demonstrating capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about their technological level. High Arbiter, the task force commander's voice carried clear tension through the communication link. The humans have just transmitted detailed schematics for our shield generators, including the specific frequency modulations we implemented last month. They also provided technical specifications for 17 different weapon systems that could penetrate our defenses, along with tactical suggestions for optimal targeting solutions. The chamber erupted in concerned chatter as representatives realized the implications. The humans were not simply refusing to pay tribute. They were actively demonstrating that the Council's technological superiority might be an illusion. "This is impossible," declared the Nexus Collective representative, their mathematical harmonics distorted by what might have been confusion. "Our intelligence assessments indicated they possessed primitive chemical rockets and basic nuclear weapons. How could they have developed such comprehensive penetration capabilities?" Representative Zexhi's mandibles clicked in what the translation matrix identified as sardonic amusement. "Perhaps our intelligence assessments were incomplete. The humans have demonstrated remarkable capacity for unexpected developments." Xel'Naga silenced the debate with a gesture, though his own composure was beginning to crack. In 10,000 years of galactic expansion, he had never encountered a species that seemed so utterly unconcerned about overwhelming military superiority. The humans were acting as if the massive ships positioned above their world were merely an interesting curiosity rather than an existential threat. "Order the task force to begin targeted strikes against their military installations," he commanded. "Minimal force, precision targeting. They need to understand that their defiance has consequences." The order was transmitted, but the response was not what anyone expected. As the alien ships prepared to fire, every single targeting system simultaneously failed. Weapons that had functioned perfectly for centuries suddenly could not establish firing solutions. Navigation systems began providing contradictory data. Even basic sensors started reporting impossible readings. "Task Force Commander, report your status immediately," Xel'Naga demanded. "High Arbiter, we are experiencing what appears to be comprehensive electronic warfare attack. Our systems are being systematically compromised by intrusion algorithms unlike anything in our databases. The humans appear to be rewriting our computer protocols in real time." In the Sol system, Admiral Chen watched her cyber warfare teams execute Operation Looking Glass with professional satisfaction. The plan had been developed based on detailed analysis of alien computer architecture, which human programmers had found surprisingly vulnerable to adaptive viral systems. "Status report, Major Kim," she called to her electronic warfare specialist. "Complete penetration achieved, Admiral. We have administrative access to all 3 alien ships. Their computer security is actually quite impressive by galactic standards, but they've never encountered adaptive AI systems like ours. Their antiviral protocols were designed to handle static threats, not learning algorithms that rewrite themselves every few microseconds." Admiral Chen nodded approvingly. Human artificial intelligence had evolved along unique lines, largely due to the chaos of the Belt Wars, where rogue AIs and corporate cyber warfare systems had forced rapid defensive innovations. Human-computer networks were designed to survive and adapt to hostile intrusions, while alien systems appeared to rely on centralized security nodes that could be compromised systematically. "Begin implementing Protocol Lighthouse," she ordered. I think it's time our guests understood the full scope of their situation. Protocol Lighthouse was the culmination of 50 years of human strategic planning. It had been developed under the assumption that humanity would eventually encounter technologically superior alien civilizations and that conventional military approaches would be insufficient. Instead, human strategists had focused on asymmetric advantages, adaptability, unpredictability, and the simple reality that more advanced civilizations often became dependent on their technology in ways that created unexpected vulnerabilities. The Alien Task Force commander's next report to the Galactic Council was delivered in a voice that carried barely controlled panic. High Arbiter, the human cyber attack has evolved beyond our ability to counter. They have assumed control of our navigation systems and are currently steering our ships into formation patterns of their choosing. Our weapons are non-functional. Our shields are operating under human command protocols, and our life support systems are displaying messages in human languages. The messages in question were appearing throughout the alien ships on every display screen, written in perfectly grammatical translations of Council standard. They were not threats or demands, but rather educational materials about human history, philosophy, and strategic thinking. The aliens found themselves reading detailed accounts of human military campaigns, analyses of human political systems, and comprehensive explanations of why their current approach to galactic diplomacy was fundamentally flawed. But the most disturbing element was the tone of the messages. They were not written by a desperate species pleading for mercy or trying to bluff their way out of an impossible situation. They read like instructional materials prepared by teachers for particularly slow students. In the council chamber, High Arbiter Zelnaga faced a situation that had no precedent in galactic history. A primitive species had not only refused to acknowledge Council authority, they had demonstrated the capability to completely neutralize Council military forces without firing a shot. More troubling, they seemed to be treating the entire situation as an educational opportunity rather than a military engagement. High Arbiter, Representative Zexhai interjected, I am receiving reports that the human cyber intrusion has extended beyond the task force. Our monitoring stations throughout the sector are reporting system compromises. The humans appear to have established access to the galactic communication network. As if summoned by her words, every display screen in the council chamber activated simultaneously. The assembled representatives found themselves looking at a simple image, the flag of the United Nations of Earth, a blue field showing their world as viewed from space, accompanied by text in every major galactic language. The message was longer than humanity's previous communications, but it maintained the same direct, educational tone that had characterized their earlier responses. Greetings to the Galactic Council. We have noted your request for tribute and your assumption that technological superiority grants political authority. We respectfully disagree with this premise and would like to offer an alternative perspective on galactic governance. We have taken temporary control of your military assets to ensure this conversation can proceed without the distraction of threatened violence. Your ships and personnel are unharmed and will be returned to your control once we have reached a mutual understanding. We propose the following amendments to your galactic political system. First, membership in the galactic community should be voluntary and based on mutual benefit, rather than tribute extraction and military intimidation. Second, technological advancement should be shared freely among all species, rather than hoarded by established powers to maintain artificial hierarchies. Third, political authority should derive from the consent of the governed, rather than from superior firepower. We understand these concepts may be unfamiliar to civilizations that have relied on force for governmental legitimacy. We are prepared to provide comprehensive educational materials on democratic theory, economic cooperation, and peaceful conflict resolution. We are also prepared to demonstrate why our approach is more effective than yours. Your consideration of these proposals is appreciated. Your cooperation is expected. Regards, the human species. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft chiming of Zephyrian representatives and the clicking of Korathan mandibles. High Arbiter Zelnaga stared at the message with something approaching existential confusion. In his experience, primitive species either submitted immediately or were destroyed attempting hopeless resistance. The humans had chosen a third option that he had not believed possible. They had made the Council's superior technology irrelevant. High Arbiter, the ethereal conclave representative, spoke carefully. Perhaps we should consider the possibility that our assessment of human technological development was incomplete. Before Zelnaga could respond, another message appeared on the screens. This one was accompanied by a comprehensive data package that caused audible gasps from several representatives. P.S. We have also taken the liberty of conducting a comprehensive audit of Galactic Council financial records, military capabilities, and political structures. We have identified several inefficiencies and ethical concerns that we believe require immediate attention. Detailed recommendations are attached. We look forward to working together to build a more equitable galactic community. Also, no. The attached data package contained a complete analysis of galactic civilization that revealed corruption, inefficiency, and exploitation on a scale that even the Council's critics had not imagined. The humans had somehow penetrated every major galactic database, analyzed centuries of political and economic records, and prepared detailed recommendations for systematic reform. They had also included precise technical specifications for several breakthrough technologies that could revolutionize galactic civilization, along with offers to share this knowledge freely once the tribute system was abolished. Admiral Chen watched the galactic response from her command center, noting with satisfaction that alien military assets throughout the sector were standing down. The cyber warfare attack had spread far beyond the original task force, compromising communication networks and defense systems across multiple star systems. The message was clear. Human technological capabilities had been systematically underestimated, and continued resistance would only reveal the full extent of Council vulnerability. Admiral, Commander Park reported, we're receiving surrender requests from 43 separate alien installations. It appears the Galactic Communication Network is experiencing what our intelligence teams describe as comprehensive restructuring. Maintain position, Admiral Chen ordered. Let them think about their situation for a while. The thinking period lasted exactly 72 hours. When the Galactic Council reconvened, the agenda had changed dramatically. Instead of discussing tribute collection from primitive species, they found themselves debating humanity's comprehensive proposals for galactic governmental reform. The vote was unanimous, though several representatives noted that this might have been influenced by the fact that human cyber systems were still monitoring all Council communications and displaying helpful educational messages about the benefits of democratic decision-making. High Arbiter Zelnaga, in his final act before stepping down to become the Council's first elected administrator, transmitted humanity's formal acceptance into the galactic community as full partners rather than tribute-paying subjects. The human response was immediate and characteristically direct. Thank you. We look forward to working together. It was, Council historians would later note, the first time in galactic history that the word no had fundamentally changed the structure of interstellar civilization. But then again, it was also the first time the galaxy had encountered humans.